Hello and welcome to Gettable, AFL.com.au's home of trade, draft, free agency and contract news. We are brought to you, as always, by Google Pixel. Great to have Google Pixel on board for season 2024. I'm Riley Beveridge and Twomey is back.
Hey, we're back. And what a time to be back. We're back here for the Wizard Show. How good's that been?
You tell me.
There's been a bit happened since I was last on the show. The Wizards gone crazy. Oasis has returned. Google's brought out a new Pixel, number 9, which is a fantastic phone. Great
awesome.
zoom. Sleek. But just on the Wizard, I mean, we have to celebrate this because we created it just a couple of weeks ago. I put this to the fans, and look, it seems like it's gone through. Got an idea for their merchandise for the finals. Can we have a look at that?
Go.
There it is. The Wizard hat. The Hawthorn Wizard hat. They have to bring this out of the cheer squad. Just modelling it there. It's a no-brainer. This has to be at the first week of the finals. And in hindsight, I probably should have trademarked the Wizard. Well, I definitely should have done that. But this is Friday night in the elimination final. And I did suggest it to the Hawks, and they went and got their Wizard hats. And I think the brown and gold variety will be coming in coming weeks if they can progress. But great to see the Wizard going well. And we love the Wiz.
It is fantastic. It's great to have you back as well, Cal.
Thanks,
We've got so much to get through on today's episode of Gettable. Matt Clark, West Coast list boss, will be joining us in just a little bit. But there is news everywhere at the moment, Cal. So much stuff going on. It's going to be a massive day today because a series of clubs are meeting today. A little speed dating event taking place in Melbourne today just to go through who could be on the move, who could be going where. So let's take a look at some of the big names. And let's start with the Bombers, I reckon, because they've got a fair bit going on.
Yeah, they do. And a part of this is Jake Stringer, and he's a big part of it because he has hit a trigger for one more season at the Bombers. He has $400,000 on that deal for next year, but wants more money and a longer term of 2 years. Jake Stringer is telling people he's played his last game for the Bombers, that he's done there. Collingwood has interest in him. Craig McRae, in particular, in my understanding, has a keenness on him coming into the club because he kicks goals. I mean, he impacts games sporadically. We saw him do this on Anzac Day in particular, where he was really, really good against the Pies. At the moment, there isn't a rush of clubs chasing Stringer. I don't have the Swans as being a part of that or being interested, but I do think there'll be a home for him. Jane Laverty is an interesting one as well from the Bombers in that he has a contract for next year already. Yep. He's looked for an extension. I expect there to be clubs looking at him. I think clubs have looked at him. Geelong and Carlton among that have been amongst the clubs who have looked at key position players like him. St Kilda as well has been linked, but I don't expect him to be there. Dougal Howard's re-signed at the Saints, so there's a key spot back that's sewn up. Yep. Laverty, from an Essendon point of view, the other thing the Bombers need is some points. They only have pick 8 and 28 at the moment within that first little bit. So, yeah, they need to match the bid for Kako. Dons go whacker for Kako. And could the Bombers add a key position back like Josh Rotham as an unrestricted free agent if Laverty goes? You might be able to get a pick in, get Rotham in as an unrestricted free agent and have a net gain there. It's
going to be a couple of massive dominoes to fall in this year's trade period, and we'll find out more once they nominate preferred clubs or if they do ultimately elect to move because they're contracted. But Jack Lukosius is going to be a big one, obviously.
Yeah, I expect him to be in South Australia next year. But which club is still to be formalised, I think, and determined. The role at Adelaide is appealing and obvious, and the friendship with Connor Rossi at Port Adelaide is real as well. Yeah. He hasn't been desperate to leave the Suns, but the expectation now is that with 2 years to go on a back-ended deal worth more than $1 million a season over the next 2 years, he is likely to depart. A future first-round pick looks the price tag for Lukosius. Port would need AFL clearance to trade their future first if they don't get one in the door already through Dan Houston. And that's where all these trades are linked, as you speak about the domino effect. Dan Houston wants to get to Victoria. We mentioned this in July. There's been 4 clubs chasing him. The hardest, Carlton, St Kilda, Collingwood and the Western Bulldogs. We see those 4 there. He's met with all 4 of those clubs. I think he spoke to them all a couple of weeks ago in the same day. The issue is who has the picks to appease the power, given his contract status, which is multiple years now, 4 more years. North Melbourne has offered its future first-round pick, likely a top 6 or so pick next year for Houston, but hasn't spoken to him, so isn't in the market. And that just shows as well, Port wants picks this year and then into the future, but prioritising the pool in 2024, given the draft standard this year. Carlton wants him. Michael Voss is pushing this. We spoke about this 3 weeks ago on this show, on this program, that Carlton is into Dan Houston, but they want to retain pick 11 in the draft. I don't see how you can have both things there and want both things. They've used one top 15 pick since 2017, so they haven't hit the draft very much over the past little bit. But if they want him, they should offer pick 11 and a future first, maybe see if they can get something back into the future as well. But if they want him, I don't know how you're not putting pick 11 on the table.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't see how that's possible. So St Kilda has also been in the mix for him if it gets Josh Battle, that extra pick in a compensation pick for him at pick 8. Collingwood is eyeing pick 12 as part of the John Noble deal, right? So there's a world where they could find the points to appease the Suns and make that a part of the deal. So they end up with that selection and swap some selections around, given the Suns are going to be point hunting as well for next year and this year as well for Leo Lombard. Then they'd have pick 12 to throw in the mix for Dan Houston. Yeah. So that's how those things can be connected. And the other part for the Collingwood to consider too is that using a future first round pick for this one would allow them to clear that one, given they had Tom McGuan coming through as a father-son next year, and he looks a really exciting prospect. So they have to think about that. Just on the Blues, Matt Owie, still no offer for him. He wants to stay, but he's going to be forced to look around now. His 33 goals this year are the most by a Carlton small forward since Jeff Garlett in 2013. More than 10 years.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Doesn't have a contract.
Quality small forward. Just on the Blues as well, while we're there, Jacob Wiedering, we've mentioned this a couple of times throughout the show. There's clearly going to be interest in him next year as a free agent, and this year as a free agent. We've spoken about that. He's set to be taken off the market. So he is very close now to signing a 6-year deal at the Blues on top of the year that he's got remaining in 2025. So that'll take him through until 2031. So good news for Carlton there. They've got their exit interviews between now and Friday. So there's going to be a bit happening at the Blues over that next little period.
Yeah, including Jack Martin as well. He's going to have to wait. He's got interest in heading back to Queensland too. So I don't know if he would get back to Gold Coast, where he obviously left a few years ago. They didn't get any trade return, but would Brisbane be a chance for him down the track in the trade period? Possibly. Charlie Ballard as well, another member of the 2025 free agency group, set to be wiped off the list as well. Ballard is in long-term talks on an extension there that would potentially take him through to 2030. So due to be a free agent at the end of next year, 2025, but those discussions are well underway. He's a highly sought-after player, agile, versatile, 25, played 130 games. So he's a prospect who is going to be taken off the board by the Suns, and that's a key signing for them that's coming up.
What about North Melbourne? They're clearly targeting veterans, and they've been targeting veterans for quite some time now. Luke Parker and Jack Darling going to be two that are on their radar.
Yeah, I'd be surprised now the way things are tracking if both of those aren't at North Melbourne next year. We spoke about Luke Parker about a month ago that he's open to finishing his career somewhere else. He's got a year to go next year. Been squeezed out of that midfield. Been playing some reasonable footy more recently and been pretty important for them. Darling too, we put on the radar. I was looking around. He's on significant money next year. We'll ask Matt Clark about him coming up. But there's obviously that element to work through. But the Roos are chasing him and have a longer offer there for him.
Bulldogs. A couple of trade requests this week, Bailey Smith and Jack McRae.
Yeah. Can we get the Wild Western music? Because I think the Bailey Smith one has standoff written all over it. The sort of... Geelong's pick right now at the earliest is pick 15. So, which will become at least 18 after the bids for Kako, Ashcroft and Lombard.
Yeah.
Which could then be 19 if the Josh Battle compensation pick hits the Band 1 territory. So if they win the premiership, it's probably pick 22. So the Bulldogs won't accept that, but the Cats, I don't think, will be offering more. So this is filed in my pre-season draft threats, walking to the pre-season draft threat watch. So that's that one. McRae been linked to St Kilda. We reported yesterday that he's informed the Dogs he wants to seek a trade. 3 years to go on a deal on his contract, but would have the benefit the Dogs to get something done, wouldn't it? They're not pushing to get his money off the books. It won't be the Cats, St Kilda, the ones that have been linked there.
Anything else in St Kilda?
Well, they're looking for Ruckman. So Ivan Soldo, we've mentioned a little bit on this show as well, contracted for Port Adelaide a couple of more years to come. The Saints are a bit of a watch there for him.
What about Alex Neil-Bullen? We know he wants to get to Adelaide. How do you see it getting done?
Well, this is the opposite to a standoff. Yeah. I think this could be, the first deal done in the trade period. Yeah. Adelaide will offer pick 25 for Alex Neil-Bullen, and Melbourne will take it. I think there could be some discussion around later swaps, but in the end, I think that pick 25 will be getting the deal done. It's close to a deal that's completed as there is heading into the trade period, so he'll be at the Crows next year.
Clubs are going to come for Brisbane's pick number 14. We've mentioned this a couple of times throughout the year. Obviously, they've got bids to match on Levi Ashcroft and Sam Marshall, both who were really good for the Sandy Dragons on the weekend. We'll get to the draft in just a little bit. Ashcroft had 42 and Marshall had 26 and 1. But clubs have already started coming for that pick 14.
Oh, they're coming. This is one of the most prized chips in it, especially if it stays pick 14. So this weekend's result will will be a factor in that. It's a pretty valuable spot. Anywhere between that 12 to 18 part of this year's draft is very, very good. Richmond will be all over it given their latest selections. It's a chance for them to get another first-round pick in the door. They could bundle up. Collingwood will push for it. Melbourne will push for it. North has later picks as well. But I think if you're creating a market at the moment, Richmond is the standout. Just on the draft.
Yeah.
We watched some good footy over the weekend in the Coates Talent League finals. And, well, my man, the Flying Viking, if we want to get another nickname started, he is pushing right up into top 10 ranks. He kicked 2 goals, 2 from 16 touches. This is Alex Taru, of course. He goes forward, he goes back. He's going to go very early in the draft. He could be a super player, this kid. Aggressive, versatile, still so raw as well. And I think that's what clubs are really excited by him. He's flying up draft boards, the Flying Viking, and he has some James Sicily about him, so can go both ends of the ground and impact. Jack O was very good as well. He's had a very good season. He had a season high 33 disposals on the weekend, 9 clearances, 7 inside 50s, 194 centimetre midfielder. Doesn't turn 18 until just before Christmas. So watch this guy surge into the top 30 mix, given that ability to extract the footy. Ollie Hannaford's a player who's pushed himself into second round contention. Small forwards really shot up, kicked 6 goals straight for the Rebels on the weekend. Was a big talking point out of the round of footy. He's so dynamic around goal, and we saw that on numerous occasions over the weekend, but also over the past few weeks too. Over the last 5 games, he kicked 19 in the past seven games, so he's on a hot streak. Murphy Reid, another one of Gettable's favourites. 3 gettable goals from 26 gettable disposals. He's again in the midst of everything with 6 clearances as well. He's class. His goals were exceptional. He has the best footy IQ in the draft, I think, and makes things happen all the time with the ball. So I'd take his 25 touches over someone else's 35. There's one of his goals there, used the win terrifically. Harry Armstrong, kick 4, and truly in the mix as a top 5 pick now. He can considered
best key forward in it?
I think so, yeah. Best key forward in it as a pure key forward. There's a bit of Aaron Cadman to his rise up the ranks and how he's pushed up to that top 5 mark. And just a little bit of a scoper ahead of next year. Louis Emmett, a 200 centimetre talent for the 2025 pool. This guy could be a number 1 contender. Had 19 disposals, 15 hit-outs and a goal for Oakland on the weekend against the Northern Knights. Has averaged 22 disposals and 1.5 goals over the last month. So look out for Louis.
Hey, just while we're on the draft, in the Sample Under-18s on the weekend, they had their McCallum Tompkins medal for the Sample Under-18s Best and Fairest. Ben Campriali, Carlton father-son player, was a joint winner of that award with 18 votes. He played 6 games, so he got 6 best on ground performances in 6 games to win the award. So it's quite the run there. He'll head to Carlton, obviously. Don't know where that bid will come just yet.
Just looking at some of the things as well, the draft related. Now that the ladder's sorted, I just want to go back and have a quick look at what Melbourne actually offered for Harley Reid last year, because it was an extraordinary offer. They offered pick 6, pick 11 and their future first round pick, which ended up being pick 5. So essentially 5, 6, 11. That equals a total DVI of 5.353 points, which if you narrowed it down, it's pick 1 and 3 for pick 1. But I don't know if there's ever been a bigger offer thrown at a selection. So the way the D's season finished, pick 5, pick 6, pick 11 for pick 1. Interesting how things turn out.
Okay, we've been speaking about the Google Pixel 9, and on the Google Pixel 9, the Best Take feature allows you to take multiple photos into one fantastic image. So Cal, what is your best take on Richmond's suite of picks that they could take into the draft?
Wow, they can't go wrong, can they? With this year's pool, I think they've been blessed with how deep this year's top 20 is. This is the current hand. This is what it could look like. 1, 6, 9, 10, 14 if they get the Brisbane pick. Fremantle's picks if they do the deal with Bolton, and if Baker chooses Freo. They're in a really good spot. Could they end up with Finn O'Sullivan, Harry Armstrong, Alex Taru, Josh Smiley, Taj Houghton, Xavier Lindsay and Jack Whitlock? It'd be a very good hand, and you wouldn't even have to use the Google Pixel Zoom to realise how good a hand that is. So they're going pretty well if they can narrow and nail all those draft picks.
One man who's going to have a big involvement in this year's draft is West Coast's new list boss, Matt Clark. Let's bring him into Gettable. Welcome back to Gettable, brought to you by Google Pixel. We've got one of our favourites at the Gettable desk today. It is West Coast list manager, Matt Clark. Matt, thanks for coming out back on Gettable.
Thanks, Riley. Thanks, Cal. Good to be here.
Matt, Riley just mentioned before that some of the clubs were catching up today. Is that part of your plan?
Yeah, part of the plan. Yeah, I'll head over there and meet meet the guys and have a chat and see what's rolling around. Yeah, so it's always fun.
What goes through those chats?
There's a fair few coffees, I think, more than anything. So, but it's always good to. There's a few things are changing pretty rapidly. Like 24 hours, something new's popping up, whether it's one of your players or someone else's. So you want to have a chat and be on top of it as best you can. So it's a good opportunity to meet everybody again. It's
great to have you in here. I appreciate your support of the show. You're the first 2 club guests.
Right. Okay.
So last year we had you on as a Tiger, and now at the Eagles. How have you found the transition into the role?
It's I really enjoyed it. They're a really good club to work with. Some great people I've been working with this year. So that's probably any organisation, I think. And it was a great organisation I worked for, and now we're entering a new one. So working with good people, and really enjoying the challenge.
We're at the pointy end of the under-18 season. There was some great Coach League action on the weekend. There's going to be another couple of good games on Sunday down at RSCA Park. How have you found the talent coming through the system this year? Is it as deep and as strong as everyone's saying it is?
Yeah, well, from a personal viewpoint, we probably predicted that the draft was pretty strong, but it's probably actually got stronger during the year. I think everybody has seen that. So the emergence of some players from all the competitions, particularly in the Coach League, I think the Victorian group's got quite strong, and we've seen some great games over the weekend, and some guys have really been consistent, putting their hands up. Some guys improved over the pre-season, which they do when they're young guys. They get into a program of fitness and changing their diets and things like that, and all of a sudden they really emerge. So there's some guys that have put them hands up that might have been potential draft picks into maybe top 20 draft picks this year. So I think it's quite strong.
At pick 3, there's going to be obviously a number of good players there. How hard has it been to plan for that? Because normally at this stage of the year, you know exactly who's going pick 1. You probably know who's going pick 2 as well, but there could be anyone there at pick 3 this year.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you had pick 1 or 2 or 3, 4, whatever it is, I think you could probably make at this point 5 or 6 maybe different choices and probably get it right. Whereas in the past, there's probably been 1 or 2 standouts right at the top end, but it'll depend on what you need, and if you're a club that's accessing multiple picks in there and get the combination of players you like. But it's really tough. As I said though, I don't think you're going to make a mistake whoever you pick at those picks. So
how many players at the moment do you think you'd be considering for that selection? Should you hold there?
Yeah, I mean the recruiting boys are doing a really good job on that. I reckon there's probably 5. I reckon around that mark. So and I think you really start to drill down on it now, and most of the interviews are being done now as well. You're probably getting out to as many homes as you can. You've got the combine coming up soon to see a little bit of testing, and there's probably a little bit of data to come in as well from a GPS and maybe a site point of view. You're probably putting all that together, but yeah, that's probably about the number.
What have you made of the West Australian talent as well? I know you've been back and forth throughout the year, but of course you've got scouts all across the country. Bo Allen, the standout, but it feels like across the championships a few of their boys really heightened their standards and stocks.
Yeah, absolutely. They were really well prepared, really well coached, the WA group. They were exceptional. They were about their footy. I mean, there's obviously a bit of talk about them earlier. They weren't as strong, but geez, they played really well as a group. So put some runs on the board, and some guys have really progressed in the back half of the year. So some guys are playing some league footy, and some guys are playing consistent, strong Colts level. So I think Jonesy and the guys over there have done a great job and are really pushing some of those guys up. So I think
where does he fit in, Bo?
It's hard to know right now. I don't really have a rank. I haven't really sat down and done that with the boys yet. I'm sort of been overseeing and just listening to what they are saying about it. But I think he's a reasonably early selection in the draft. Yeah.
Let's talk about some list management stuff. Liam Baker's a player that's clearly of interest to West Coast. He's requested a trade back to West Australia from Richmond. Hasn't nominated a club yet though. Are you confident of landing him?
I'm not sure about confident. He's still to make a decision, and his management and Liam have been upfront about that. They're still weighing up a few things, so we've put our foot forward to see what we can do there. We'd love to get Liam on board from what he offers from a talent point of view and a leadership point of view with our group. So we're still working through that. He's got a decision to make. We don't have a coach at the moment as well, so that may play a factor in it at some point potentially. So we'll have constant dialogue with his management group.
You drafted him, you knew him, you know him pretty well. Has that had an extra sort of element towards this year in terms of the pitch?
I'm not sure about that. He's got to make a decision for himself about what's the best term for his future, about whether it's the success that he wants and which club it's going to be. So, I mean, you'd like to think that plays a role, but I think with the management groups now, they sit down and go, let's just see what's best for you rather than getting involved in too many personal relationships.
What has the pitch been to Liam to join the football club?
I mean, we understand where we're at as a group. We've obviously had a few years there we've missed finals. We're regenerating our group, no question about that. The guys have already started a really good process of doing that through the draft recently. We need to add some guys in the middle tier to support that young group that's going to come through. Our 18 to 22-year-old group is quite large. We've got some veterans that have finished up, and Gaffey being one of our grapes finished up this year, and we've got one to bring some of those guys in that age bracket that can support the veterans that we've got in TK and Yowie and these sorts of guys. So we're sort of targeting some guys in there from not only a talent point of view, but a profile, a leadership point of view.
Jack Graham's another one that's sort of in that age bracket as well. Another one that you brought through at Richmond. He's obviously got deals on the table from yourself and from the Tigers at the moment. Do you think he's one that could come to the football club as well?
Oh, look, yeah, we've got a number of players that we've been speaking to, and Bakes has obviously been one of those, and there's some guys around that mark that can actually fill that void in terms of what we need on field as well, the way they transition and move. So, so we're just a bit of a wait and see on that one as well. Once again, there's obviously guys that are out there out of contract or ending contract that are thinking about what best for their future. We'll talk to a number of those guys at some point.
We'll move off the Tigers in a second, but Shea Bolton's the last one of that group. He has also made it known to Richmond that he's keen to get back to Western Australia if a trade can be sorted. Are you in that mix?
I think it'll be difficult for anybody, really. I mean, Shea obviously is keen to get home. The Tigers are in a good position there where he's heavily contracted, and he's a high-end quality player. So I'm not sure where that one actually sits with both clubs, to be honest.
James Peatling, there's a number of clubs circling him. Do you expect to be in the race for him as well?
I think James, he's heavily involved in a final series at the moment, so I don't want to comment too much on it, but I think there's a number of those guys that have been playing really good footy this year that could suit what we do and what other clubs could do. So I'm not surprised that he's got a number of clubs actually having a look at what he's been able to produce this year. He's probably taken his footy to another level this year when he's got more opportunities through the middle. So he's probably a number of players who are actually having a look at.
Obviously, pick 3 is a big part of this all, and the take to the draft, you split it for a double picks. You can split it and turn one of the picks into a player potentially. What's your openness to using pick 3 to get stuff done, or holding in that position?
At the end of the day, I think you really want to hold an early selection if you can, but I think the depth of this group allows you to maybe have some movement there and see what you can do to actually bring in some more talent in the first sort of 20 or 25 picks. Easier said than done, because I think most clubs are probably saying the same thing about how many picks they'd like to have in this group, given that a lot of players that have emerged. And I think initially we thought, this is just a midfielders draft, but I think there's some other guys that have come onto the mark in terms of tools and maybe some rebounders from the back half that have actually been really exciting as well. So I think you'd love to keep it, but being able to move that around into some others would be great. So we'll see what we can do.
Tom Barras has requested a trade to Hawthorn. He's obviously got 3 years to go on his contract, so you have control of this one. What type of trade price is going to be set for him? And do you want 2 first-round picks? Where does it sit in the early discussions on Tom?
I had an early discussion with Hawthorn about it. They understand where we're at and where Tom's at. We'll work with Tom and his management on what he wants to do. Out of respect for Tom, he's been a great player for a footy club, and he's obviously nominated Hawthorn as his ideal destination. So we'll work with them on what it looks like. Obviously, we want what we think he's worth as a genuine key back of the competition that can do what he can do. I think that we'll have discussions will ramp up fairly quickly on that, and we'll see. But we're obviously mindful of getting an appropriate deal for West Coast.
More than just Hawthorn's first-round pick?
Well, we'll wait and see, I think.
Tom Cleary, shape as a potential option if you look for mature age, ready-made defenders in the case Tom goes?
Maybe. We're obviously looking at, again, if you lose Tom Barras, and we understand where Gov's at in terms of his age, although he's probably playing as good footy as he's ever played, and he's fit and he's really focused on what he wants to do and how he wants to lead the footy club. But we probably need some key back depth. We obviously got young Ref Bazzo, who we're hopeful that'll come through, that played some footy right at the end of the year, and get him through a pre-season, what that looks like. But we probably need to look at some sort of depth in the back half, whether that's through the draft or trade free agency. Yeah.
Jack Darling's a player that's got some interest from North Melbourne over here in Victoria. Do you expect him to explore that during the trade period?
We had initial discussions with his management group about that. Jack's contracted player for next year. Our commitment to Jack is obviously been a warrior for our footy club. He's played almost 300 games for us. and his ability to train and prepare is as good as anybody. So we're committed to getting through Jack a pre-season and seeing what it looks like next year. If he and his management group want to explore outside of that, I mean, we're open to talking about that as we are with all our players. But I mean, Jack's a contracted player with us at the moment, so we're just looking at it at this point.
Liam Ryan's another one that's under contract, signed that deal earlier this year, but his name's been linked to clubs throughout the season. Do you expect him to be at West Coast next year?
I expect him to be at West Coast next year, yes.
What about some of the uncontracted players? Josh Rotham was mentioned a little bit earlier, unrestricted free agent. Alex Withers and Jermaine Jones is also sort of in that limbo spot. It's a tough spot for any players across the competition. It happens a lot these days as well.
Yeah, it does. It's the worst part of what we do, worst part of the year, I would have thought, when you're dealing with players and their futures and their lives, and some of them have given us unbelievable service. So we're still working through what it looks like from a list point of view and how many selections we want to have, and some players that may come in and potential players that may go out. Not probably having a coach probably limits us a little bit on that. You might want to give a coach an opportunity to have a look at some of these guys, but that may happen sooner, may happen later, so we need to make some calls on it. So we're quite respectful of what we actually do with these guys.
Harley Reid, I don't know if you thought this question might come.
No, I didn't. I obviously didn't.
I mean, an amazing first season for him, and everything that we could have hoped and expected from him, maybe even more so some of the impact that he had as a first-year midfielder doing what he did. How do you progress or hope to progress in terms of re-signing him longer term? He's obviously 1 year into the initial 3-year contract that first round players now get. How are those discussions unfolding?
Yeah, we've had discussions most of the year with his management group, the Connors guys and Nick Geeshan. I think it sits in a really good place. We're open to doing really whatever they want to do, to be honest. And it's up to us as a football club. I mean, obviously people talk about what offers he may get elsewhere or back home here in Victoria, but we're really confident that actually building the right system around Harley, both on and off field, to make sure that he's really comfortable with that he's going to play his best footy and the long-term future. So I think we sit in a really good spot with that, and we'll just keep discussing with them what it looks like.
Yeah. Have you seen his impact on the football club this year?
It's quite significant, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's taken the whole AFL by storm in a way. I'm not too sure I've seen a young player in my time come through and do what he's done. I suppose there's so much more focus from a media perspective, because it's a larger group than ever before than, say, maybe when a Chris Judd came through and played his first game. But his impact, he's quite infectious. He's got the big smile, and he loves playing the game. I mean, he crosses the white line, and I reckon if you just give him a footy every week, he'd just love to do that every day, like a lot of young fellas do. They just want to play. So, but it's been pretty significant, his impact across the whole club.
He was getting selfies at Port Melbourne on Sunday as well.
Yeah,
He's there watching some of the junior footy too.
Yeah, I thought I saw you getting a selfie.
I was just saying a lot.
Right. That wouldn't surprise me.
I got one earlier.
Jake Waterman, All-Australian this year. Close to a new deal?
Yeah, really close. Yeah, we're working really closely with his management on that, and Jake's. I mean, credit to what Jake's been able to do. Come back from illness and get his body in the right shape. He's obviously been a fantastic trainer, and now he's been able to actually put that into what he can do on field. So yeah, we're working really closely with that. So I expect that we'll have something done pretty soon. You
got one co-captain signed up this year in Liam Duggan. You got another one in Oscar Allen, who's a free agent next year. Yes. How quickly do you want to tie him down long term?
Yeah, we've been talking with Oscar and his manager Andrew McDougall most of the year on that one. So yeah, and we're actually going through some stuff at the moment. We wanted to get through a period where we had some other young guys that to tick off, and obviously want to see what the landscape looks like from in terms of the whole football department as well for Oscar, and make sure that he's really comfortable with that, and Duggo as well. We're trying to get their input as much as we can in what we're doing with regenerating the group. So yeah, we're pretty close to talking. Well, we are talking quite constantly with them on what that looks like. So I think we'll be okay with that one.
Just last one before we let you go, and to appreciate all the chat around these guys. On a broader level, I think West Coast fans will be looking and saying, how many more years do we look at the draft, and how many more years do we focus really heavily on getting young talent in? Where do you see the build being at? Having obviously taken over this year, but obviously a little bit of work was done in the lead up to that as well.
Yeah. I think the emergence of some of our young guys this year to get some more games into these guys in the right way. I mean, there's the narrative that you just play the kids, but they've got to earn the right to do that. And I think a guy like Brady Hoff's been able to come through and play the footy that he's played has been exceptional. So, I mean, we still need to bring in some more young talent in a couple of key areas. But I think the mechanisms now in terms of player movement allows you to actually regenerate it quickly. I mean, there's some free agents that can come through, trade period as well, plus the draft. So I expect we'd like to be still pretty active at this year's draft, but I think there's some mechanisms in the next 2 years that could actually accelerate that.
Now, we know you've been on previously, so you do have your Gettable t-shirt under there.
I did notice there was something missing when I got a glass, and you guys got one of those.
That's now yours. You don't leave empty-handed. We expect the Gettable t-shirts to be on at the Pullman today.
Oh, no doubt.
And we need you to sign this one for our Gettables wall. Maybe just if you want to scrub over the Tigers shirt from last year's photo. We do appreciate you coming on, and good luck for the next few weeks, because it's obviously a big time. The trade period's basically already begun, and the draft is coming not too far behind that. So thanks a lot for coming on.
No, terrific. Thanks.
Thank you everyone as well for watching. Plenty more still to come on afl.com.au this week. Big thanks also to Google Pixel for their continued support of the show. See you next week.
Want to get all the latest footy news in one hit? From injuries to breaking news, the latest from the coaches, the Footy Feed team has you covered. Watch it now on afl.com.au and the AFL Live app, or wherever you get your podcasts.